Hi guys, welcome back to Ibby's Bookshelf. My name's Ibby and today we've got another thrilling book review. Today's book is Gangsta Granny by David Walliams. A few things you should know about David Walliams. He is a really good author, maybe second to Roald Dahl. David Walliams is a global best-selling author and I love his books. I've read so many of them. They are packed with action, drama, and are filled with humor. You want to spill your guts out laughing because of them. So without further ado, let's get started with this book review. Do you think that your granny is boring? Do you think her food is terrible and the entertainment is so boring? Well, so does Ben. Every Friday night, his parents go out to watch Strictly Dancing, which Ben hates. He hates dancing. So his parents always dump him off at his grandmother's, which is really unfortunate. Ben wants to be a plumber, not a dancer. So whenever his parents dump him off at his grandma's, all he has for entertainment is his weekly plumbing magazine. One night he had enough and he called his parents to ask them to come pick him up because his grandma was so ultra boring. His grandma heard though. Uh-oh. In the morning, she seems disappointed and distressed, thinking that her grandson never loved her and never will. After Ben chucks his breakfast out of the window, gloopy egg, he decides to look through the shelves and try find some foods. He finds a biscuit tin. He shakes it hungrily, but notice that it doesn't sound like there are biscuits in there at all. He opens it and inside, to his astonishment, he finds jewelry. So much jewelry, rings, diamonds, sapphires, rubies galore. But his grandma always seemed so poor. Why does she have all these hidden treasures? And why has she hidden them away in a biscuit tin, which is a really terrible hiding place? Ben leaves his grandma's house that weekend so surprised, confused, and above all hungry. The next time he goes to his grandma's, he confronts her and she tells him that she is a thief, an international, global, infamous thief. She has stolen many jewels, many diamonds, and many treasures. And it all started off with one night when she was a little girl. She was living with her parents. Back then, she was really poor. And there was a very wealthy couple living in a big house, practically dripping with gold and silver. After having a lunch of one piece of measly bread, she decides she has had enough and she goes to the house. She only intends to steal some food for her and her family, but she sees an emerald ring and decides, well, no one's looking, and she grabs it. She rushes out of the house. She runs, and when she looks behind her, she sees a bunch of cops following her. She sees the emerald ring in her hands and tries to hide it in the only place she could think of. She swallows it. When the cops catch up to her, they pat her all over and search her, but they couldn't find a thing. A few days later, she finds it in the toilet, and she has savoured it her entire life. Ever since, Ben's grandma has been a thief, stealing the most beloved treasures in the entire known world. But even she could not take the most precious jewels in the entire world, the crown jewels in London. But Ben thinks it's possible. He helps his grandma conceive a diabolical plan to steal them. His grandma looks uncertain and then says, "Okay, let's do it." And so they do. But she says, the night straight after we steal the jewels, we put them back. Ben asks in astonishment why, and she says, "The Queen's such a lovely dearie, I don't want to make her upset." And Ben thinks, she sees him on TV every Christmas and thinks, yeah, we'll give them right back after we steal them. But he also asks, "Why didn't you give back any of the jewels you stole?" And she says, "I've been meaning to, but the second you steal something from rich people, they decide to upgrade their security, and then it's impossible to get in." Ben understood that. A few days later, everything goes according to plan, and Ben and his granny bypass the Queen's security and gets into the vault, only to find that the Queen herself is there. The Queen explains of another man who also came to try steal the crown jewels, and the monarchs at that time gave him a pardon. So the Queen also gave them a pardon when the grandma explained about her grandson not loving her. And the grandma also said that she isn't an actual thief. All those little jewelries, they were plastic that she had gone out and bought after she heard Ben calling his parents. As it began to sink in, at first Ben was really angry, but then ashamed, because he didn't know that his grandma had actually heard him saying that, and he was so upset that him being so mean and selfish that his grandma had actually agreed to going and stealing the crown jewels. He felt nothing but embarrassment and shamefulness. A few days after this whole stealing the crown, his granny dies. Yes, his granny dies. But here's the thing. You think that this book is going to end in a terrible tragedy, everyone crying and being upset. But David Walliams has a knack for making you think every single one of his books is going to end in a total tragedy. But then he does something so funny, you cry laughing. In this book, during the Queen's speech at Christmas, the Queen says, "Always look to your elders because we are not as boring as we may seem." And then lifts up her dress and shows the entire nation on TV her Union Jack underpants to the entire world. His father is watching the TV, and just then he had a big glassful of milk and then spits it out, googling at the TV. So hilarious. Well, that's all for this book review. Make sure to look for my other videos and look for future videos as well. Hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you can be the first to receive all new updates and videos. Well, bye, and remember, please subscribe. Thanks.